Ride On people. Today is a special day. I'm out on my friend Elaine's MOTO2 version, limited edition of the Triumph Street Triple for 2024, and she is on my 2024 Triumph Street Triple RS, and we're interested to feel the differences between the two. Now let me quickly just recap what the differences are. With this one you get a numbered headstock. I'm not sure if you can see that. This is 568, 765. This bike is available in 765 individual examples in each colourway. Comes in a white as a primary colour, or yellow as a primary colour. And this has clip-on bars and a machined headstock. The clip-ons are above the top yoke, so they're actually quite comfortable in the main. And the main difference is this has the Öhlins front forks, whereas my RS has the Showa big piston fully adjustable forks. So we're interested to see, the differences won't be massive because they both have essentially the same chassis, frame, brakes, engine, and gearbox. Around 130 PS, 128 horsepower, and around 60 pound-per-feet of torque. So immediate impressions. This thing is obviously a little bit more prone in its, more bent over in its ergonomics because of the lower bars, but I wouldn't say uncomfortably so. And obviously the faster you go and the more spiritedly you are riding, the better they will feel, and particularly at the track. I think these will really help you hang off the bike so much more mid-corner, which will be really nice on a track day. In terms of the ride quality, it's really hard to say. I would say that not much to choose between them in terms of the front end. The forks feel fairly similar. They both seem to be running similar preload, and I would say both the compression stroke and the rebound stroke are very similar. Possibly, for the very sensitive, the rebound stroke might be slightly better, might be slightly smoother. They're fully adjustable both bikes, so you can kind of dial that in and out to get a feel for the way in which you want it to ride, depending on your weight and riding stance. Interestingly, the rear shock on these bikes, in theory, is exactly the same. They're both the same Öhlins shock with the same linkage with 10mm spacer over the R, to give it 10mm higher ride height, and it's exactly the same shock for the same settings, same geometry, yada, so it should feel exactly the same, right? Only it doesn't. This suspension on the rear definitely feels nicer than mine. When I say nicer, I mean it's much more compliant, but also just as composed, but it's definitely a lot more comfortable on my derriere. With my bike, because the rear felt so firm, even though I'm a big lad, I had to reduce the preload by 2 clicks, and I improved the rebound by 2 clicks. Most road bikes come with too little rebound anyway, so that's no great shakes, but the comfort wise I had to reduce it, and now it's done a couple of thousand miles, actually has softened slightly as well, so it's very, very good and very, very composed. But this feels sublime. This feels super nice, and I have no idea, as I say, if it was like the forks, I could understand it. These are Öhlins forks, and the RS is the big piston Showa. And if there was a difference there, you say, oh, that's where the money's gone, I see it. But it's, funnily enough, the rear shock, which should be exactly the same. Now, one thing I am noticing is that although the agility on the RS is like, it's ridiculous. Think activated steering. It's great. It's even more precise with this. So I think you're having to work as hard, really, because the higher, wider bars are a little bit more wrist friendly. But this is very, very precise. So both are very, very good. Obviously, the harder you push, the nicer this is, and the more kind of road legalish speeds you're at, the nicer the RS is. Why did I order a Moto2? Well, when I saw the pictures and spec, I thought, I love that, I'm going to have one of those, that'll be an awesome bike. But then I noticed the clip-on bars. Oh, brakes are good. I noticed the clip-on bars, and I broke both my wrists twice. I mentioned that a number of times before. I don't want too much weight on my wrists, and there's quite a lot of weight there actually, pushing downhill, and I would notice that at the track as well. And that was the primary thing. But the reality is that the Triumph sensibly mounted them above the top yoke, not below it. And so there's not so much weight on your wrists as proper clip-on bars like BMW RR, for instance. And that makes it much more usable on the road, particularly when you are accelerating. And of course, I haven't even thought about the gearbox. It's, you know, the quick shifter up and down, bi-directional quick shifter is just great on this bike. Elaine mentioned she'd had a couple of false neutrals, but I haven't so far. Maybe it's my unfeasibly large size 13 plates of meat that are smacking on the lever, but shifting nice and sweetly for me up the box, down the box. I mean, lovely, just lovely, lovely, lovely. Now, one thing I am noticing is, come to a stop here, dodgy junction, is there's a little bit more tension between my shoulder blades. That's because I'm more hunched over, and a little bit more tension in my lower neck because I'm cranking my neck upwards to see where I'm going. On the track, that would be noticeable on a track day because you'd have your bum further back, you'd be more chest down on the tank, you'd have you'd be dropping your shoulders and your elbows a little bit more, and that would help alleviate that to some extent, although you may still get it in your neck because you're going to have to crank your neck back even further. So slightly less comfortable in that respect, but you know, this is relative. We're talking small degrees here between the two bikes, which are obviously very similar. You know, the difference between the bikes is really about 5%. The majority you're paying for is the extra quality of the carbon fibre, machine parts, and exclusivity in both the paint job and the numbered editions, limited edition of both bikes. So it's not just the numbered editions, such as like the Street Fighter V4 SP2 is this year, where it's got a number on the bars, but they'll make as many as you want to. It's a question of this is 765 in each colour only, and they're very exclusive too and difficult to get hold of. I did find one, and she was going to buy it, and it was sold within an hour. She lost out on that one, had to go to Knoxville, Tennessee, out of state to buy this particular bike, and that was because she found one that was in a crate and not yet advertised. So she was pretty lucky, I would say. And when I first saw my first one in the flesh, my heart did miss a beat slightly, and if I hadn't have already bought my RS, realising that the bars are above the top yoke, I'd have probably bought the Moto2, in all honesty. But which is the better road bike? It's a close call, but I have to say, you know, and there's an inevitability to this, but I have to say the RS is obviously a little bit better. You're sat a little bit more upright, the bars are a little bit more forgiving, require less counter steering, and of course it has all the premium parts that you want in terms of stylemma, rear O-lins, and beautiful looks for a very good price. 12.6 I think for the RS, and this is more like 16.4 I think off the top of my head for the Moto2. In terms of bling and curbside appeal, this has it hands down. It's a very, very, the standard bike is pretty, the R is pretty, the RS is gorgeous. On a track day, yeah, hands down you'd want this. You've got the O-lings up front, you've got the drop bars, and it would just be that little bit more appropriate for the track, I think. There is an inevitability in that decision. Conclusion, the RS is going to be better on track, sorry, the RS is going to be better on the road, and the Moto2 is going to be better on track. The clue's in the title. But I would say that both can do both admirably well. I would more than happily track day my RS. I stopped doing track days about 20 years ago, maybe longer than that, and I did plenty of track days. I learned what I wanted to learn on track. I enjoyed it, it was fun, and then decided to stop doing it, and maybe I'll start doing it again, and if I do, the RS is the perfect tool for that, unless you have the Moto2, which would be even better. But on the road, again, both are a real joy to ride, really, really nice. I would say that on the road, what I would want is the RS, but with the rear shock out of this bike. And as I say, it's a conundrum because I have no idea why this shock feels better, because it's supposed to be the same geometry, same weight, same torque figure on it actually shows the Newton meters torque figure on the spring itself, and they're exactly the same, so it's the same weight spring and everything. And there's no mention by Triumph that the internals are any different. So the only thing I can think of is that possibly it's set up differently, and I need to find out what settings the Moto2 rear spring is set to, and set my RS to the same, because then I would be I'd be in even more love with it than I already had, and I'm pretty in love with my Street Triple RS Cosmic Yellow. It is very, very special. I love a dangly D-ring, don't you? Not sure what type of animal that's off, but all pulling away in second gear. These bikes are so tractable, considering they're 765, and they don't have that much torque. They have a lot of power, great power to ratio, but not that much torque. But they are so smooth and tractable and linear, you can get away with that very easily. You definitely notice some extra weight on the wrists when you're braking hard, and when you're coming to an absolute full stop at junctions. I think one key area you definitely notice the difference. You do cut through the air a little bit better because you're not such a windsock. You're leant over that a little bit further, which is quite nice. And the bars do feel great through these twisty corners. It's they're low enough to be able to really push, but they're not so low that it's hurting your wrists and you're feeling that you have to be doing 1,000,000 miles an hour, otherwise it's totally uncomfortable and unusable to ride. So it's striking a really good balance, I think. And this bike is worthy of putting in your living room, sat next to your pool table or whatever. A little bit of a nice little work of art. It's not perfunctory, it's not an adventure bike, it's not there to load up like a pack mule and ride to the Sahara. But on these little back roads, wow, yeah, it's sublime. Very, very nice. This is in some ways it's like the ultimate sporty road bike. Great power to weight ratio, lovely ride quality, not so much power that you're not able to use it and enjoy it, but enough power that you don't end up completely thrashing it and feeling that it's not enough, that you need more. You definitely do not need more on the road, and your license is definitely in danger if you think you do. Oh yeah, I think I I would love to ride this at the track in one-piece leathers, because I can feel that once you start getting a bit of lean angle, it would be great to hang off. Yeah, when you move your body weight around, it feels good. Which, you know, you don't need to do much on the road, but in terms of the track, you'd be climbing all over it like a Capuchin spider monkey. This would be awesome on a twisty road like the Dragon. I hate this corner. I'm going to take it a little bit slower than I normally do. It's I'm sure on camera it looks absolutely fine, but it's very deceptive. It kind of tightens up on you. I love this little bike. It's such fun. So I think we better do a bit of a conclusion wrap up before talking to Elaine over and getting her thoughts. Both bikes, and I'll try to do that without influencing her thought. See, you know, what she has to say, and then maybe I'll comment on what she has to say. But in conclusion, for me, you know, there's an obviousness, but the Moto2 is going to be a better bike on track and better bike for showing off at your local bike hall. The RS is going to be better on the road and better value for money in terms of, you know, a lot of high-end components at very, very appealing price. So, which would I buy if buying again? Well, on looks alone, I thought it would be the Moto2, and riding them back to back in terms of the ride, there's not much in it, although I am feeling this rear shock is a little bit nicer. But I have to say the RS for me, because I don't do track days, and if I do, I prefer to rent a bike and throw somebody else's bike down the track rather than my own. And so I spend the majority of my time, which will probably be maybe 6,000 miles a year on my RS, because it's the second bike, but all of those miles are going to be on the road. So it makes total sense to have the RS, I would say. If I could get this bike with the RS upright bars, and I wouldn't want to convert one to kind of ruin it, then maybe I would do that. But that's just the vanity in me. In terms of the actual ride itself, there's not much between the two, and the RS is at a good price point with higher bars, and so that would be my personal choice for my own bike. But love this, and if you have one, you're a very lucky boy or girl, that's for sure. What a great bike.
Okay. Take two.
Take two, because
Take two.
we already filmed this and then it went a bit pear-shaped for technical reasons. But
Right.
anyway, earlier in the week I rode Elaine's new Moto2 street triple back to back with my RS, and she rode my RS. Now, Elaine is a founding member of MOTO2, and if you want to know more about that brand and what they do, I'll put a link in the description to their website, and I'll also host this video on their website as well. They're great friends of mine, and essentially, why don't you explain what you do?
Well, MOTO2 is a club that we've started, and coterie means a gathering of like-minded people that have a common interest, and that's what ours is, obviously motorcycling. So now what we're trying to do is build the community, the motorcycle community. We want to get dealers involved, we want to get different clubs involved and expand it, and just build something very positive that we can all enjoy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think it's done quite well in the short time it's been going. All my friends have all been very supportive of it, which I appreciate, and you just want to keep that momentum going. Yeah.
So you organise track days and discounts for members, bike nights, which is the second Tuesday of every month. Currently at Pure Takiri in Roswell.
Yep.
And I think I was there last month. There was 45-50 people, very good turnout. And you also had speakers from the speed shop there, so very interesting night. So do check that out. Anyway, getting on to the Street Triple, and specifically what we felt in terms of was there any difference between the Moto2 and the RS, and if there was, what was it? How did you feel about the experience?
Well, first I'd like to say that I never thought of buying the Street Triple until I saw how passionate you were about that bike. If you've ever seen any of Richard's ride-on YouTube postings, you'll see that he's done quite a few reviews on it. So he then sent me a link for, it was really probably a shootout between the R, the RS and the Moto2. And because my use of that bike is going to be to take it to the track, we decided that I would go for the Moto2. That's how that all started. When we did our ride, I can honestly say, firstly, I understand why you're so passionate about the bike. I loved them both. But there wasn't a huge difference between the two of them on the street. The biggest difference, I mean, really, they're basically the same bike. But I think the Moto2 handles. It's a bit more positive. It's sharper on the road. It handles better. That was the key thing, and that's probably because of the clip-ons.
Yeah, I definitely felt when the RS steers wonderfully. It's a great road bike, and would make most bikes seem very lethargic. It's very agile, but the Moto2 just definitely, when you press it, when you're going that little bit faster through the Twisties, it's just that little bit more precise, and would definitely be the one to choose on the track for sure.
I think that's the biggest difference. We both had this thing about the height. I thought mine was taller, you thought mine was tall, a little bit, but it does for anybody who might be a little bit challenged. The seat is high, it's 33 inches, but Triumph they have a link, I believe, in there that you can take out that doesn't compromise handling or any of that.
So there's a 10mm collet or spacer above the shock for the the RS, and the Moto2, which the R doesn't get, which is why the seat height is 10mm lower. So that can always be taken out. And yeah, that was kind of interesting, because that was the only thing we weren't sure about on the day. Was you felt my bike was slightly higher. I wasn't really sure about that. And then I felt your rear shock was slightly kinder, even though it should be exactly the same. And you felt mine was slightly kinder. But
yes.
I think on reflection, after we filmed, or after I filmed my own bike thoughts, I think on the ride home when I was on my own bike, and on reflection, like you say, I don't really think there's anything between it. And even with the front forks, which are a genuine difference, you have nice blingy O-lins which look gorgeous in gold. The Showa big piston forks and the RS are not only good, they're pretty hard to distinguish between the O-lins.
Yes.
They just both seem to work really, really well. I think the key difference is, as you said, the steering, and also all the extra you get, because it's a limited edition bike with the numbered headstock and the machine headstock, all that carbon fibre, the special paint, and it's a proper limited edition.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a very pretty bike. They're all very, very pretty. I think the other thing I did notice, which will change when mine is running, I've only got about 250 miles on it, that your gearbox felt a little bit smoother than mine, not as stiff. The engine felt just I don't know, just felt more comfortable in the...
A bit more running.
A bit more running. That made a difference. I think we both agree on the TFT. It's very good, but you can't see the how many miles you've got left in the tank.
And the time.
You can't see the time, you can't see the temperature.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of different settings, which I like. So we both, interestingly enough, we both go for the one with the digital tacho, because they don't have a regular tacho on it the way we're used to. But they have 5 settings on that. So, and I think maybe my bike has a few more mapping adjustments on it, or at least another one. I think
I
there's.
don't know. It might do. It might have a extra race mode or something.
I think it does. Another key thing, I think, that bike, even though the Moto2 is obviously geared towards track riding, it is extremely comfortable.
Yeah, I think Triumph did the right thing by putting the bars above the head top yoke, because if you've ridden bars beneath it, on track it's fine, but off track it's just a pain in the wrist.
Yeah.
And everything else really, because you're leant over so much further, your neck is twisted back and stuff, and on the road, when you're stuck behind traffic and all the things that we don't like to do, but you have to get to the good roads, it's just a pain. So they put it above that, and even though I'd broken my wrist previously, I found it very comfortable and no real issue whatsoever. So
the only thing I found interesting, and I don't know if you've read anything about it, is there are no fairings on the Moto2.
No.
None at all. Now, for me, that's great. When you go to a track, you don't have to worry about them. Those sort of things, you can tape up the lights or whatever. Most of us put race fairings on them when you go to track. But they chose not to put any fairings on that bike.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, it's probably a compromise between looks and costs, and the ethos of it being a naked bike, not a 765 Daytona. So I guess that's that. When they did have it, people were crying out for the 765 Daytona with full fairing, and then when they made it, it didn't sell that well. Whereas the Street Triple is, good luck getting one this year. Just the right kind of balance of price and performance for on-road use, particularly.
I had both Brian and I had 675 Daytonas.
Yeah, oh really?
Yeah, he bought a brand new one up at one of the local dealers. I found one in Chicago and had it shipped down. And we bought those to go on the track, and it's interesting, we loved those bikes so much, they were so much fun to ride that we never put them on the track.
Right, exactly.
We kept them for the street, and then eventually we sold them and they never got on the track.
I think if I had your bike, I'd put it in my pool room and just stare at it. And, it's almost too pretty to ride. It really is gorgeous to look at.
So I think we have quite a group though now. So you have the RS. Our friend has just bought an RS. We have an R.
Yeah, we have Steve with the RS, Dan with the RS, the other Richard with an R, and you with Moto2, and me with an RS. So yeah, there's 5 of us.
We have a gang. We have a rat gang.
And also another friend, Doug, is looking at potentially buying an RS. So definitely spreading in popularity, and for good reason, because it's hard to fault. The only thing I don't like personally is I wish the clocks were clearer for the key information, like particularly range remaining.
Yeah.
And I also wish Triumph would stop putting the USB underneath the rear seat, underneath the passenger seat. They should just be in the dashboard, so you have to run the lead from the back to the front if you want to power save your phone on the dash, on the bars. But apart from that,
I mean, it's really nitpicking, isn't it?
Yeah.
The things that they've got wrong, and at the price point, that's the other thing I think that is quite incredible, that they've managed to bring that. I think it's $15,900.
Yeah, it's
for the Moto2.
Under 10 grand for the R, which is amazing value for money, and it really isn't that much worse to ride than the RS on the road, and it's 995, so 9995. And then the RS, if you like your bling, it's probably worth the extra 2,600 at 12.6. Because you get the Olin shock and you get the Stylema brakes
and a little more horsepower.
And you get yellow. You get cosmic yellow.
You get cosmic yellow.
That's worth it in itself.
But a bit more horsepower?
Yes, you get so from 118 to 128 brake horsepower, or 130 PS if you're metric, and the Moto2 gets 130. But of course you're getting Olin's front suspension and beautiful machine headstock, limited edition, carbon fibre, great. Very racy Moto2 spray job, and I think we all benefit from the fact that it is a proper race series, so that engine's been thoroughly developed, because in the one make race series you can't afford to have any failures, it's too bad publicity.
Yeah, that's right.
So Triumph have obviously put a lot of R&D into that bike, and we as owners are reaping the benefits.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I was listening to a podcast about how bikes are marketed now. And one of the comments that the CEO, is actually the CEO of Ducati, had said that it's social media. It's the people that buy them now do most of their marketing. If they get it wrong and it gets out there on social media, it can kill a bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so
I think we're all interested in other people's opinions. Otherwise, we wouldn't be making videos like this. We wouldn't be watching videos like this. And although it's always good to experience yourself and make up your own mind, it's always good to have affirmation from people you respect and whose opinion you value. And I've owned 40 motorcycles. I think Elaine's probably up there as well.
Had a few.
And she's the track day queen, as I said in my VT earlier. So I think if you want a street triple, just put your money down, wait as long as you need to get one. And if you like doing lots of track days and you see a Moto2 for sale, just buy it. It'll be worth it.
Out of curiosity, you may know this, if you bought the RS, could you change the bars on it to put those clip-ons on? Would that be possible?
I'm hesitant to say yes, because the Moto2 is not a TFC bike, a Triumph Factory Custom. If you have a Triumph Factory Custom bike, you cannot buy parts for it unless you prove you are the owner. So they truly are exclusive.
Interesting.
And they're only made in Hinckley, they're not made anywhere else in the world. The Street Triple, I believe, is generally made in Asia, and that's just the economy of scale and the global market for that bike versus, say, a Triumph Factory Custom Rocket. And limited editions, you probably can order parts for it. So in theory you could, but it'd be so cost prohibitive, it just wouldn't be worthwhile. Because you'd need, Olin's forks alone would probably be the difference between the RS and the Moto2. Just to order the forks would probably cost you $4,000, and then the machine headstock and the clip-on bars and of course the paint job. So it would be too hard to do, too difficult to do.
Well, thank you for introducing me to this bike.
You're welcome. I love making you spend money.
I know, and also to our local dealer, Triumph dealer, because they found this one for me. It was very difficult. I had to go to Knoxville, out of state, to get it. So huge thanks to them for finding me one. Yeah,
huge shout out to Trent in Triumph Roswell. And we're actually in their sister shop, the Pops Coffee Co. at the moment, filming this. So we spend a lot of time here, and these guys look after us. So we appreciate them very much. And thanks for watching to the end, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Hey you, if you want to become one of the Ride On people, don't forget to subscribe. Ride often, ride carefully, ride on.